Hello and welcome back to another Giant Slayer TFT Top 10 video. Today's video will be a countdown of the top champions for ranked play in patch 10.9. Our analysts will be diving into why each champion is great in the current meta. As always, this list is not in order of strength as each champion is viable depending on the right situation. With that said, let's get right into the video. But before we begin, please don't forget to click the links in our description. Give your support to everyone who helped make this video happen. We host many TFT tournaments with plenty of exciting content to come, so be sure to also follow our Giant Slayer TFT social media pages. Alright, let's get back to the video, and to kick things off, we're starting off with Vi as our number 10 champion on the list. Vi is not only a strong champion on her own, but also showcases the strength of brawlers and cybernetics in the current meta. Both traits can increase her health, which is extremely valuable right now in the meta, as armor can be countered by items like Last Whisper or bypassed entirely by magic damage. With Jinx being such a contested carry right now, it's common to run at least 2 brawlers with her, and Vi is often one of those brawlers due to her CC. One of the best aspects about Vi is her lack of dependence on items to do well. Even in cybernetics, all she needs is a random component, and that's it. Definitely look to play this champion in the mid and late game if you're running any build using brawlers, cybernetics, or Jinx as the carry. Next up is a champion returning to the list, coming in at number 9 is Graves. Graves remains one of the strongest one-cost champions in terms of utility, as his ultimate blinding effect is insanely valuable at every single stage of the game. It's such a strong ability that players will often look to make a Quicksilver for their auto attack carry, specifically to prevent the blind from affecting them. Besides a strong ultimate, he also has 2 great traits, with Blaster being one of the most commonly played and Space Pirates being fantastic for the early game. Graves is definitely a worthwhile pickup at any stage of the game if you're looking to run blasters. Moving on down the list at number 8, we have another Space Pirate, Darius. Darius, like Graves, is extremely valuable early game because of Space Pirates, as earning extra gold is always useful. While Graves is more for utility, Darius just does a ton of damage on top of getting a reset whenever his ability kills a champion. This makes it so he can chain kill multiple champions in a row, which not only cleans up the board quickly, but can also earn you a few extra pieces of gold. While Space Jam isn't as common as it was in previous metas, it can still do well late game if you fully deck out your Darius with magic items and get him 3-starred. Next up, we have Lucian coming in at number 7 on the list. Lucian time and time again proves his worth, as he's such a strong asset in the early game, especially when paired with cybernetics and another blaster. Look to give him red buff and other carry items, and once you 2-star him, he's going to hard carry you throughout stage 2 and 3. Set 3 lacks viable mid-game carries, as most of the time you just transition into your late game carry early on in the game, but Lucian remains one of the few low-cost champions that can do well without needing to be 3-starred. That said, he will fall off later in the game and is mainly used as a trait bot for blaster and cybernetic, but the fact that he can carry early and mid-game so well makes him a worthwhile pickup in most games. Alright, let's move away from lower cost champions and talk about one of the strongest 5-cost champions in the game, Lulu. She's coming in at number 6 on the list. Lulu is by far the best late game champion to put into any composition by herself, purely due to the fact that her CC is amazing. Not only that, she also has 2 easily splashed traits with Celestial and Mystic, which are common to add in at level 8 or 9. Another benefit to Lulu is she doesn't need items to do well, which is rare for a legendary champion. And one last benefit to Lulu is she's easily one of the best champions to keep on your bench to be pulled in by Thresh if you're running that champion in your composition. All in all, this champion is fantastic later on in the game and should always be worth considering adding into your composition. Twisted Fate is a number 5 champion on the list, as he's useful as an early game item carry and an essential piece in the Candyland composition. Whether you're giving him magic items to hold on for a later carry or 3-starring him in Candyland, Twisted Fate is one of the best 1-cost champions. With a buff to his level 3 ability in 10.9 and the increased chances of finding 1-cost champions in earlier levels, it's never been better to 3-star Twisted Fate. As mentioned, he's a key champion for the Candyland build, which looks to 3-star him and Poppy as the main carries. Give him a Morellonomicon and a tier item such as Seraphs or Shojin, and he pops off in fights. If you don't wish to play that build, you can simply keep him as an early game item carry and sell him later. Kale is number 4 on the list as one of the stronger 4-cost champions in 10.9. While Jinx is more contested, Kale remains steadfast as a viable late game carry for several reasons. One is how versatile the builds that user can be, whether it's Chrono, Celestial, or Cybernetics, she's going to do well. All she really needs is 3 Blade Masters and a second Valkyrie, and from there you can fill in the rest of the composition with whatever you need. Another reason as to why she's such a good carry is the items she requires are quite flexible. As long as you get at least 1 attack speed item, generally Rage Blade, you can give her any number of other items in the second and third slots. Defensive items are always great, such as Quicksilver or Trap Claw, or you can play more attack speed by giving her a rapid fire cannon. Whichever route you go for items or traits, Kale is a fantastic carry to earn you at least a top 4 placement. We've moved on into our top 3, and to start it off, we have Xayah as the number 3 champion on the list. Xayah has been useful as an early game item carry for quite a few patches, but with the change to 1-cost champion drop chances, she's become a viable hard carry. Look to 3-star her and pair her with Blademaster, Celestial, and Chrono to bring out her full potential. By far her best items are Last Whisper paired with an Infinity Edge. More defensive items work well, though Quicksilver allows her to go hard in a fight without worrying about being CC'd by stuns or blinds for 10 seconds of a fight, which is often enough for her to clean up a majority of the enemy team. Another playstyle uses multiple static shivs on her to carry, but the Shredder style of play with Last Whisper and Infinity Edge tends to be more consistent. Coming in at number 2 on the list is Poppy. Poppy's in an interesting position because for her to truly hard carry, she is item dependent and needs to be 3-starred, which usually goes against the usual criteria for the list. But because she is such a strong presence in the meta, to the point where you need to play around her with items or champions, makes her a worthy champion on the top 10 list. Candyland is generally where you want to play Poppy, which looks to 3-star her and Twisted Fate as the primary carries. From there, you want to give her a Bramble Vest, Death Cap, and Dragon's Claw, and she'll become insanely difficult to kill. Oftentimes, she's going to clean up at the end of the fight and be the last champion surviving due to the amount of shielding her ability provides. Poppy also benefited greatly from the changes to 2 Vanguards in 10.9, which upped her armor to 125 from 60. So not only does her shield provide a good amount of survivability, so does the increased armor of 2 Vanguards. This means she's fantastic early game as a frontline option, even if you're not looking to 3-star her later. Overall, Poppy is one of the meta-defining champions in 10.9. And now we're on to our number 1 champion on the list, Jinx. Jinx is another meta-defining champion at 10.9 because she's one of the strongest carries and is highly contested. It's not uncommon to see 3 or 4 players all contesting Jinx because of how valuable of a carry she is. One of the reasons as to why she's so sought after is due to a buff in 10.9 to her rocket damage, which was increased by 25 for her first 2 star levels. This makes it so once she gets into her rocket form, the fight is quickly going to end as she comes in to clean up the fight. Another reason as to why she's so valuable is the change in item prioritization in 10.9. Last Whisper has become a top damage item, which is a great item for Jinx to help her shred through armored targets. Infinity Edge pairs well with Last Whisper, and alongside those items we have Red Buff, which does good damage and has the much needed healing debuff. On top of that, she's a blaster, which means her attacks will spread to multiple champions, which altogether means she will get takedowns much quicker to get the benefits of her ultimate. Rebels have also returned to the meta in 10.9, and Jinx is an important champion for that comp as well. Jinx is an essential champion to learn how to utilize for the mid and late game in the current meta. And that's going to be it for our top 10 list, folks. But as always, before we go, we just have a few more champions to talk about in our honorable mentions list. Up first is Miss Fortune as a powerhouse legendary champion for the late game. Why she's not in the top 10 is mainly due to how expensive she is alongside being dependent on a few factors. First is she will need mercenary upgrades, which are not only expensive, but hard to find consistently. Secondly, she'll want a few items, mainly tier-based items, to help her cast earlier, but she really wants either a Trap Claw or Quicksilver. Quicksilver in particular is a valuable item on Miss Fortune because having her spell be uninterrupted for the first cast is essential for winning a team fight with her. Trap Claw can work, but Quicksilver is the best way to ensure that she gets her first cast off. All in all, Miss Fortune is a common late game champion for several composition, but it's not a guarantee that you'll be able to get all the necessary upgrades and items for her, and that inconsistency is why she's an honorable mention. Alright, our next honorable mention is Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa is a key champion for Mech Infiltrator, but outside of that, she's not really played much. But due to the strength of Mech Infiltrator, she earns an honorable mention as it remains one of the strongest compositions in 10.9 as it has for quite a few metas. Another problem with Kai'Sa is she requires a specific item to do well, and that's a Demolitionist charge. Without this item, it's much harder for a Mech Infiltrator to get above a 3rd place, and as you're never guaranteed to find a spatula, it makes Kai'Sa a bit too inconsistent. That said, when you do find that item alongside with a Morellonomicon and a Seraphs, Kai'Sa is one of the scariest carries in the game. And the last honorable mention is Sona. Sona is the quintessential item-dependent champion by far, as she's used in what is known as the Mana Printer build. Basically, you need to have 2 Chalice of Favors and a Seraphs, and that causes her to not only cast her ability almost constantly, but also provide mana to nearby champions. This combination is extremely potent, but it's incredibly difficult to get all the necessary tiers, which makes it a not so consistent playstyle. But if you're able to find all the necessary items, she can be slotted into many different builds such as Rebels, Void Brawler, and Candyland with 6 sorcerers. Sona herself will also be healing and cleansing stuns constantly, which can increase her value as a mana printer, but as we've said, it's really difficult to consistently get these items for her, and that's why she's an honorable mention. That's all that we have for you today, folks. We hope this list shines a light on why a few of these champions are so good in the current meta. Let us know in the comment section below which of these champions you're having the most success with in your ranked games. Thank you for watching, and if you're enjoying our content, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for future Giant Slayer TFT videos.